Fire King just might be one of the most slept on and underrated Yu-Gi-Oh strategies. Earlier this week, I challenged TJ in his $1,000 Yu-Gi-Oh meta deck with Fire Kings just to show you how powerful it is. And today, big dog, I'm gonna be showing you why I think Fire Kings are actually crazy strong right now. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that's your day phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Now, one thing I want to talk about when it comes to Fire King is that I do not think that it is a tier 1 deck anymore. Now, since the most recent ban list hitting original Sinful Spoils Snake Eyes, Fire King is a strategy that got swept under the rug. And I can't really blame players. Losing a powerful card like that would make most Yu-Gi-Oh strategies completely crumble, but not Fire King. I actually think that in this particular Yu-Gi-Oh meta, destruction is really important. And if you can have a deck that thrives off of destruction, you can have a really powerful one. I'm not saying that Fire King is a tier 1 Yu-Gi-Oh deck again, but I'm saying it is very, very powerful, and you could potentially pilot this deck and have some really good success. And of course, not only in this video, I'll be giving you the deck profile, I'll also be showing you some really cool combos. I'll also be giving you my philosophy, why I play certain cards and why I don't play certain cards. Some of them you may even seen on Duel Challenge. And another thing to note, before we jump into the deck profile, I know what you guys are saying. Callie, these mats are crazy. The sleeves are nothing but, phenomenal. And you guys can go ahead and get your sleeves and mats from TheCaliEffect.com. I'm actually working on the final version of Raven Wing, so this particular batch is discounted until we run out. But enough of my yappuccino. We're gonna start off with the very basics of Fire King. There's 3 copies of Fire King Yoconics and 3 copies of Legendary Fire King Ponix. This is pretty standard in Fire King, and even though it is 6 normal summons, drawing these cards together is no problem because you can always destroy Ponix or another fire monster to get other plays. It's also pretty usual to play 3 copies of Fire King Avatar Kirin, as well as at least 1 copy of Fire King Arvata. A mandatory engine requirement is the Fire King High Avatar Garunix, and Fire King Avatar Barong is optional. I think one of the biggest problems with Fire King players is that we're always looking for that huge combo. Being able to summon powerful monsters like Promethean Princess into an Ambler Well alongside a Fire King Avatar Arvata is the standard line. But one thing I noticed about decks like Kashtira, Fiendsmith, and Yugioh is that these particular strategies are a lot slower. You don't need to make some super outrageous board to be able to play against them. You just need to destroy the right cards at the right time. And coolly enough, that's what this deck is really good at, and is the thesis to why I think Fire Kings are a lot stronger than what players think. Of course, I'm not going to leave you in the dark. I'm going to be showing you guys some combos that don't look really strong, but when you start to get under the hood, they're actually crazy. Which brings me to my next really crazy choice. A lot of pure decks only play 2 copies of Garunix. I'm playing a 3rd copy of Garunix. When you play 3 copies of Sacred of the Fire King Garunix, you actually lower the floor of your deck. We already know in pure Fire King decks, opening Garunix is complete sauce. And granted, having multiple copies could suck, but overall, you need fire monsters in your hand. I decided to go with multiple Garunixes in this particular build strictly because it was better than playing more copies of Fire King Island and Sanctuary, which don't really solve the problem because you'll still need fire monsters to destroy. Also, the card is amazing to have when your plays do get stopped by your opponent's 23 negation cards, because then you can just crash your fire monsters into your opponent, or use some of your powerful spell and trap cards to destroy all monsters on the field, and since you didn't need to search it, you can activate its effects. You guys gotta hear me out on the Garunix. That's the reason why I play 3 copies of it, though it's not a permanent thing. I've been going back and forth between 3 and 2 for that reason. But let's go on for the Sanctuary or the spell cards. There's 2 copies of Sanctuary, 2 copies of Island, 1 copy of Skyburn, and 1 copy of Circle. I would love to play another copy of Skyburn, but I don't think I would sacrifice Circle for it, and it's strictly because there are oftentimes you need to destroy a fire monster on the field to trigger some of your effects, but your opponent may not have desirable cards for you to destroy. This card also comes up to be able to win the game too by summoning other fire monsters, but you guys should already know what it does. The versatility of this card is unmatched, but that's pretty much it for the entire main board of Fire Kings, the base, the engine. One of the biggest challenges for this Yu-Gi-Oh strategy was getting as many fire monsters inside of the deck that can benefit from being destroyed. And trust me, I went everywhere. I thought of cards like Fencing Ferret, which would be good at getting you extra destructions. I even thought about playing Ring Bali, which can summon itself when a card is destroyed. The reason why I went against those is because they don't fit the core theme of the deck. They don't get me closer to Grunix or any XE plays that would be catastrophic for the opponent. From here, my tech cards, I am playing 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, and then I'm playing 3 copies of Cash Tira Finra and 1 Rise Heart. For the people that are wondering, in Duel Challenge, I actually played just 2 copies of Finra, and that's what kept me at that $100 range, but now I don't have to abide by that. As you should know, the Cash Tira engine allows you to go full combo with the deck. And Triple Tactics Talent actually took out a card called Firestorms Over the Atlantis for this card. It was another one of those wacky cards I was testing out with, but realized it wasn't really worth it. Now, the last portion of the deck is going to be showing you how insane I am, how far I am willing to go to make a deck successful. In current Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of people are arguing which is better, board breakers or hand traps. I even have a Staples tier list to let you know that board breakers are on the rise. Hand traps are really powerful, but I think it's best in a deck where you need 1-card combo situations. As we already know, Fire King isn't consistently a 1-card combo deck. It's a deck that needs multiple pieces to be able to assemble his board. I want you guys to think of strategies like Branded, Tearlament, Labyrinth, decks that are notorious for not playing 20-something hand traps inside of their deck, but playing powerful Yu-Gi-Oh cards that can complement their strategy and also disrupt the opponent. Regardless, whatever you argue with, board breakers might be the strongest approach in here. So there's the 1 copy of Call by the Grave for Ash Blossom, but then there's 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. Eclipse not only allows you to be able to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Failure, it's effectively the strongest board breaker in the game right now, in my opinion. There's 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, which is really crazy in this deck. Because you play so many quick play spell cards, you can activate cards like Book of Eclipse, your opponent will chain Desiree or something, then you can Droplet off or chain other quick play spell cards like this card, which is nutty in this deck, and then finish off with the Droplet to negate your opponent's board and get what you were doing. Now, speaking of that, I want to talk about Final Bringer of the End Times. This card is absolutely bananas in this Yu-Gi-Oh deck. And you're probably thinking that Fire King Skyburn is better, and at points in time, Fire King Skyburn is incredibly good. But this card provides a little bit more versatility of being able to destroy any card. In actuality, I would prefer to play 2 copies of this card and 2 copies of Skyburn, because since they're both hard once per turns, it gives me more interaction on my opponent's turn. Chaining these quick play spells and trap cards alongside of each other, as well as gaining your Fire King destruction capabilities, is what makes Fire Kings really good right now. Not the ultra high-end combo we were used to. At least that's my opinion of the deck, and I'm sticking to it, because lastly, there's 3 copies of Torrential Tribute and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. You see, like hand traps, I needed multiple board breakers to be able to work together to be able to beat my opponent. Kind of like how when you Ash Blossom your opponent and follow up with an Effect Failure or an Infinite Impermanence, I can activate Impermanence and follow up with Droplets or Book of Eclipse. If I Torrential Tribute my opponent and follow up with Droplet to stop them from stopping me, they're more than likely cooked, especially if I can destroy fire monsters to trigger my Fire Kings. With this particular version of the deck, I tried to make sure that every single Yu-Gi-Oh card in here can count, that they tie in together and work very well for one another. Again, I don't think that it makes this deck tier 1, but I think it makes it a genuine threat, especially with the right player behind it. Oh, and I also avoided playing my Copium. My Copium that I really wanted to play in this deck was Dark Hole Dragon, because it's a level 8, it can summon itself, it searches Dark Hole, but I tested it, it's maybe not yet. It's still a really, really fun card though, but you know, that's it. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to have some questions on the cards that I play, or maybe some cards that you would like to play inside of the deck. Be sure to ask them. Big Dog, I will try my best to talk to you guys as much about this deck, because I am as enthusiastic about this deck as I am about Labyrinth or Unchained or any of my other favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Fire King is there. Now, the extra deck, there really isn't much to talk about since it's pretty close to being solved. For the extra deck, there's 2 copies of Garunix, the Blaze, the Arsenal Falcon, the Solomon Great Package for the OTK, Ambluel, 2 Promethean Princess, the Sunlight Wolf, Little Knight IP Hida, Relinquished Anima, and the Almirage. The cards in here are fairly self-explanatory, so I'm actually going to show you guys a couple of scenarios and combos that makes this deck a little bit different. You think that the board isn't as strong until you start to realize that, yo, these are actually pretty solid board. All right, Big Dog, so what I want to show to you guys is why this deck is a lot different than normal conventional decks. Basically, Fire King Ponix is full combo, especially if you draw your cards like Final Bringer, End Times, or maybe even a Fire King Skyburn or something like that. But I'm just going to roll through the combo to show you guys why this deck is kind of cooked. What we're going to do is we're going to normal summon the Ponix, get the Fire King Sanctuary, activate the Sanctuary to activate the island. We'll then destroy the Ponix to be able to add Sacred of the Fire King Garunix to our hand, and then use its effect to be able to special summon itself. With the effect of Garunix, we are going to destroy the Olconix from our deck, and then trigger the effect of Olconix. That allows us to be able to special summon Fire King High Avatar Garunix, and then Exceed summon with these two monsters into our Garunix Eternity. Now, again, this may not seem like a strong combo, but if I'm being so honest with you, this is crazy. In this particular scenario, we have a Torrential Tribute to destroy all monsters on the field, so that's one interruption, including our Exceed monster. But if you guys remember what I told you, this deck is built off of using your interruptions to your advantage. Of course, we'll use the effect of our Garunix to be able to special summon back the Yolcardi Urconix and the legendary Fire King Ponix. And then we're going to trigger both of their effects. Urconix will destroy the legendary Fire King Ponix to be able to add from your deck to your hand a copy of Kirin. And then the effect of Ponix, because we use that too, we'll be able to activate here to be able to add a card like Skyburn or maybe even Follow Up. Since we destroyed a card, we can trigger the effect of our Fire King, Sacred of the Fire King Garunix. We can summon itself to the side of the field and then use its effect to be able to destroy another card from our deck. We can get another interruption here, just straight up if we destroy the Kirin from our deck, triggering its effect to be able to special summon a Garunix. So keep in mind, we've already wiped the board once, and we have an opportunity to destroy another card. We can obviously wipe the board another time for our opponent's special summons with Sanctuary. We can use both of these monsters for an Exceed summon into another one, destroying all monsters on the field. And we can even use cards like Final Bringer of End Times to be able to destroy our Yolcardi Urconix to be able to destroy another card on our opponent's side of the field. So now you're starting to see like how that just 2-card situation is one of the biggest ways how this deck can be so disruptive. But now if you allow me, I think I'll show you another combo, a combo that people were overlooking all of the time with this deck. So there are players that have their gripes about Kashtira, Fenrir, and Fire King. Some players do acknowledge that it does allow you to go full combo, and some other players even decided to play a bigger Kashtira engine to be able to compensate for that. Some players don't like Kashtira Fenrir simply because it eats your normal summon in order to go full combo. Well, that's actually not true. The deck can still go full combo, and since this particular version of Fire King is less extra deck base, it's actually kind of cool. I'm going to add some other cards into my hand just to make it look luxurious to see what your hand can be, and then we'll add a random fire to show you how powerful this deck can be at its strongest. We're going to special summon Fenrir to our side of the field and then use its effect to be able to add Kashtira Riceheart. And hypothetically, if one of these cards were like a legendary Fire King Ponix or maybe even a Yolconix and you don't want to commit your normal summon, we can actually just special summon Riceheart to our side of the field and extra deck lock us to only Exceeds. I'll use the effect of Riceheart to be able to banish our Kashtira Fenrir, forcing our opponent to lose 3 top cards out of their deck, and then we'll use these 2 monsters for an Exceed summon into our Raid Raptor Arsenal Falcon. From here, we'll activate the effect of Arsenal Falcon. I'll detach 1 material to be able to special summon Fire King Courtier Yolconix from our decks to our side of the field. Yolconix will then destroy our Fire King Avatar Kirin, which has no effect at this point in time, and we'll use it to be able to add legendary Fire King Ponix. Now, since we did destroy a card and Ponix doesn't need to see the card being destroyed, we can summon Ponix to our side of the field and use its effect to be able to add Fire King Sanctuary. Then we'll activate Fire King Sanctuary, using its effect to destroy Yolconix to be able to add Sacred of the Fire King Garunix. We'll use the effect of Garunix and our Yolconix will special summon itself to the side of the field, and we'll also bring out a Fire King High Avatar Kirin. Using the other effect of Garunix, we'll destroy our Fire King Avatar Barong, and then we'll use both of these monsters for an Exceed summon into our Sacred Garunix. We should have a Fire King Island from activating the Sanctuary. Now, it's up to you if you want to use the effect of Garunix to destroy your Ponix and your Arsenal Falcon. Oftentimes I will, because this particular board is game winning against the opponent. Not only do we have the effect of Ponix to be able to add itself back into the hand, we also get the effect of Kirin or our Barong to be able to add a Kirin to our hand. We don't need both of these cards, but having all 3 of these cards allows us to be able to destroy our opponent's board, destroy an important card, negate our opponent's card effects, and then we also have the line of both Kirin, Ponix, and the Sacred of the Fire King's Runics, which means a lot of times our opponent's gonna have to deal with a lot more destruction and another Xyz summon of this card on our opponent's turn. Like I said before, one of the strongest things about this deck is the slow grind, the strategy's ability to use powerful board breaker spells and trap cards to hinder your opponent. But honestly, I wanna know what you guys think about Fire Kings this format. And what are some other strategies that I should update? I don't think I've ever done a Labyrinth deck profile, which is completely crazy for me. It's one of my favorite decks of all time. And I already talked about how Unchained is secretly one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Go ahead and check out that video. Until then, big dog, be sure to click on one of my videos so I can catch you on the next one.